Well, first of all, thank you for your interest in my work and for giving me the opportunity to talk about more specifically the question that you had in mind. And in terms of the impact of my model for the future and what we can know about the future of Latin American countries, that's a difficult question to answer because it really depends on what we're looking at. Take, for example, Brazil. I'm certain, I'm convinced that Brazil will play a much more important role in the governance of the global system in the next 150 or 150 years as it does already emerge to right now. As we know from the BRIC countries, where Brazil, together with China, India, and Russia, have asserted their power in terms of economic power, but also growing political power much more. If you are familiar with the work, then you will know that I put a lot of emphasis on digital technologies. And interestingly enough, and often ignored by US sources, but also European sources, is the incredible integration of digital technologies that we can see in Brazil. So, for if you look at the countries that are larger, that have larger GDPs, larger populations, that have a wide range of different sectors, industrial sectors, but also agricultural resources, which, as we know now, are very important. Again, I think Brazil is very much is very well positioned to take a critical leading role in the reformation of global governance structures. If you're familiar with the model, it claims that globalization or global system formation takes place in waves, and these waves themselves can be differentiated into four phases, and we are currently seeing one of those phases repeating themselves again, and this is you could argue the disassembling phase, the phase where former structures that were secured after World War II, with the United States as a clear hegemon, now unravel. And opportunities are arising as a result of the decline of the relative power of the United States in the international scene and of the global governance structures that they have defined. Bretton Woods on the economic side, but the dominance in the United Nations as well, and in other and with their allies, and so we do see a number of countries arising in Latin America that, on the back of rising commodity prices, the growing importance of oil again, now can assert themselves in a way that would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. So, coming back to your question, what impact does that have, or what does all that mean for Latin American countries? You can't really say. It depends on what countries are we talking about. We're looking at the range of countries from Paraguay to Brazil to Argentina to Chile, and it's really hard to say what impact does this model have. What it does help you to identify is that if you have a given country, in what niche or in what position does this country find itself in the current global system structure, and then it becomes interesting to see, will this country thrive in this kind of setup, or will it be struggling even more than it did maybe in the past? So, coming back to my original example of Brazil, I'm convinced that Brazil will be really well situated to take a critical role, leadership role, in the future setup of the international system. Whereas for other countries that are struggling to get into place their infrastructure that is critical to take a part in the opportunities that arise as a result of digital networks and the kind of pre-existing networks that they connect to. And those countries, unfortunately, probably will find it even harder to catch up in terms of their economic development, but also their human development and their social development indexes or indices. And so the gap between the haves and the have-not, the developed and the non-developed, will probably widen.